We thank you for staying with us on your election headquarters. We're going to be kicking things off, starting with Odododiodoo, and Winston Taki is our man on the ground. He joins us with the very latest live updates. Winston, is rather very early. What can you report? Are people putting up stones, queuing, and getting ready to vote?
Hello, I'm actually at the Odododiodoo constituency at the forecourt of the station, at the forecourt of the Jamestown police station. And at the moment, they are sorting out the ballot boxes for the presiding officers. So as I take you around, I'd like you to see what is happening here. It's rather a busy morning where the presiding officers are picking up their boxes before they go to their places of monitoring the election. So there are various persons here taking up their boxes to their allocated places within the constituency. Already, the presiding officers have been spoken to by the EC officials of the do's and don'ts, especially with regards to the election. So many here currently is a busy place. As I take you around, you can see it's been a quite busy morning right now. Everyone here trying as much as possible to get the allocation that has been appointed onto them by the election official. So it's rather a busy morning here, and I'm also here trying as much as possible to report to our viewers who are seated right in their homes this morning. Omavi.
All right, Winston, there at the Jamestown police station. So what is happening right now? Polling materials being dispatched to the various polling centers. Winston Taki with the very latest update. We'll go back to Odododiodoo for some more updates on the ground to check if those materials have been finally dispatched. But Evans, let's talk about Odododiodoo for a minute.
Yeah, let's do
It's
so.
an interesting constituency, isn't it?
It is. Let's do so. I mean, Odododiodoo is a stronghold of the NDC. And if you go back into time, and let's just start with where we know we ended the last time. This is Odododiodoo in your shortly. I'm going to expand it just so that we can focus on it a bit more. And that here is what you see in your shot. I'm just going to circle it so we can get a picture of what happened the last time. And you see there that because the NDC is a very, very strong place for the NDC in terms of its ability to win that area. And over time, though, we've seen that the MPP wants to win that area. And so it creates an area of context. And I've covered Odododiodoo before. I was there in 2008. But at the last time, John Mahama won it. John Mahama won it by, what, 55.4%. Now, between that and what you see here for Nanado isn't that significant. But this is an overwhelming stronghold for the MPP, for the NDC, in terms of its ability to just give them significant votes. And Greater Accra is going to be very interesting. Everybody else wants something there. I want to pull up the trends. The trends tell you a story of the NDC winning this significantly. Everybody wants to hold on to Greater Accra. If you want to hold on to Greater Accra, you want to keep what you have. But NDC has been dwindling. You see it on your screen there over the period. If you go back to 2012, that's the last time they had anything above 60%. They are going into this year's election with momentum slowing at 53.8%. What this means is the contest is going to be keener this year. The MPP knows that they need to do a bit more to cross that mark. With the presidential the way it was, you were expecting that Baumia would do a bit more there. But you have Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo there being very popular in that area and across the country. At the parliamentary front, they've been struggling, but have won that area before. And that, for me, is something that the NDC is aware of and also knows that if you have Nilante Vanapoy, who is very strong. Remember this story about Mr. Bannerman?
Exactly.
So this area tends to pose a bit of a challenge security-wise. The police always has that area as one of the flashpoints. And I'm not surprised that very early in the morning, people are already beginning to queue. One of the things we need to also do is to pay attention to the area in terms of its poverty dynamics. That is a very poor area of Greater Accra over the period. And if you pull up the thematic, that tells us a story. Let's go back to 2015. The last time the data was available from the Statistical Service. Now, what we do here with our poverty heat map, the lighter the shade, the less poverty you have in the area. The darker the shade, the more poverty you have in the area. This is 2015, the last time the Statistical Service gave us data for what poverty looks like in the area when it comes to the Odododiodoo. And it is lighter. If you look at the severity, it's just 1.84%, and then incidence at 15%. What happens in 2021, the last time we know this was available, this has gone up. Severity is now 43%. What it means is that people there are poorer as we speak right now. That obviously tends to influence the outcome. You have a lot of fisher folk in that community, a lot of uneducated folks in that community. When it comes to teenage pregnancy, I live very close to Odododiodoo when I grew up there in Korle Klottey. You begin to see that then began to have an impact in terms of education. We've been there, for example, for our just turned 18 conversation. And many people there told us that education was a key thing. If you look at the multi-dimensional poverty indicators, and we were looking at a few things. One of the things we looked at in the multi-dimensional poverty indicators in Odododiodoo, and I want to pull that up, it tells a story about how, you see how dark it begins to look in that part of town, right next to Odododiodoo. You begin to see that in Ayawaso Center, for example, and you go to a place like Dadekotupon, and you go to Korle Klottey, and right next to it is where you have Odododiodoo showing up in terms of its multidimensional poverty in that area. Right? So that is one of the things I want to show in terms of its nature. But Greater Accra generally, maybe look at this. This is the poverty heat map for Greater Accra in 2021. Look at what happens there in 2015. You immediately begin to see that something has happened in Greater Accra. Lighter the shade, the less poverty. The darker the shade, the more poverty. And I'm going to circle Greater Accra for you. And this plays out across all the areas. This area here is lighter in 2015. If you take that off and then you flip it to 2021, the story changes almost instantaneously.
Right. All right. We're going to continue with that analysis, but I also want us to take a quick trip to Ashaiman, where our man Carlos Klottey is on the ground. Carlos, good morning. Carlos joining us via Zoom. Carlos, tell us exactly where you are. I know that you're following the materials being dispatched right now. What's happening? Carlos, if you can kindly unmute so we can hear you. Carlos Klottey is our man in Ashaiman, giving us live updates now. Carlos, tell us where you are.
Yeah, Mamavi, I'm right in front of the Future Scholars Academy, which is actually one of the 357 polling stations in this Ashaiman constituency, where you can see long queue has already formed behind me. Many of the people I've been speaking to here said they got here around 1 a.m. And earlier, I was at the district police directorate where polling materials were being dispatched to polling stations. And so far, according to the officer there, they've done more than half of that, and they are still doing that. Other parts of the constituency are busy with a number of people parked and waiting for buses to convey them to other parts of the country. Those I spoke to earlier, many of them said they were on their way to the Volta region, the Adan area, and they have heard that some member of parliament have actually made arrangements for them to be transported to those areas to cast their vote. But it's important to note how crucial this Ashaiman constituency is. You know, since 1992, the NDC has dominated this particular constituency. MPP won it just once. That was somewhere in 2000. And so this is a crucial constituency for this election, being, one of the most populated constituency among the top 5 in the country. The NDC is counting heavily on this to win this election. And on the ground, a lot of people are so much excited about the fact that they're going to cast their vote today and they're expecting that the process is actually going to be peaceful. I'll try and speak to a few of them to see what they make of the situation. So you're live on Oil News. Give us your name and tell us how long that you've been in the queue.
But people call me Ash. I came since yesterday. I'm expecting peace because you should remember that Ghana is bigger than any political party. Even when you read Matthew chapter 5 verse 19, it's a blessed peacemakers. So I'm expecting nothing but peace, so that at the end of it all, Ghana will be.
All right, thank you so much. And so that's just one of the voters who actually got here as early as 1 a.m. Mamabi, the situation is interesting because across the constituency, queues are forming and the number keeps in it. And so we'll keep you posted on what happens here. Just some few meters away from here is where the MP for this constituency will be casted. Down here, the MP Kinesa will also be cast.
And that's
there are about 6 candidates in this particular constituency. One we are told has pulled out, so now 5 of them are vying for the seat here in the Ashaiman constituency, Mama B.
Carlos, thank you very much for that report. Carlos reporting from a stronghold of the NDC, Ashaiman. Carlos will be back with a lot more. It's interesting that as at 1 a.m. we find citizens queuing, getting ready to cast their ballots. Let's cross over now to Tema East. Mamiesi Thompson is joining us via Zoom from Tema East. Mamiesi, what can you report this early?
Thank you, Mama V. So I'm currently at Padmore School here in Community 1, part of the Tema East constituency. And as early as last night, there are voters here waiting to cast their ballots. In fact, I've been to a few polling stations earlier, and people were there as early as 3 a.m., 4 a.m., waiting for the electoral officials to come and set up to begin the election. But over here at Padmore, people were here early last night, around 6 p.m., and have still been here till now. I have one person with me. I'll walk towards that person so that we can interview him why he was here that early so that we can get more information from him. Hello, sir. Good morning. You're live on Joy News. You were here yesterday as early as 6 a.m. Why were you here this early?
We are here to vote. To vote for Ghana, but not for individual. Yeah, not for individual.
You were here as early as 6 p.m. last night. 5 p.m. Oh, even earlier.
Yeah.
So why? Why is it so important for you to get here at this time?
Yeah, it's very important, as I said earlier on, to get to vote.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, as a youth, you know what is ahead of you. It is December. We are in December. A month to vote.
Okay.
You need to be here to make the change in candidates.
All right. All right. Thank you so much. So, Mama Vida was one voter who was here as early as 5 p.m. last night. I have here with me an old woman who is also seated here, ready to cast her. Mommy, then live or Joy News. It's catch and other Hanumano pay Manana Wabo 5:30. And a bit more of you now, but later, and it's now Bantam down.
My Bantam will send a Modamaman. My Bantam, no matter what and no matter if you will be a Namak, no, I have fine. Oh, no, Mamma, Marshall, and Taminam Daba.
One go to Nebe and then you be there.
No, what's your man with him now?
Okay. So, Mama V, what this old woman is saying that she came as early as 5 so that she can she can vote and go back and finish whatever she's doing at home. The others two here who've also been sitting here for this long. Let me speak to this gentleman. Good morning, sir. Good morning. How are you doing? You're live on Joy News. Tell us why you're here this early.
So Bantam, about to the international. Now we have a da, but now a bestseller. We now buy a no by a so Bantam, no bestseller, because a unipo baby. Otu baby now cool. Where you the Otu baby could I be bad 3 days per hour source. The only answer to a baby, I was about to say so bad. Otu be up with you. No cocoa. No, you're being a Ghana. Baby, be a Ghana. Yeah, no, say discuss. I had you my one year, you know, say, go to a baby. No, for you. That's how I'm a Soviet.
Yeah, that's it. So, Mama V, this man, as you heard earlier, is saying that he's here to cast his vote, live here. He doesn't want any form of rancor going on here. So, Padmore is one of the biggest polling stations in Tema East. And as we know, Tema East has always been an NPP stronghold from 1992. But in 2020, NDC broke that chain, and Ni Ashai Odamtin won for the parliamentary seat in the Tema East constituency. But we understand that the NPP is coming up strong this time around with their candidate, Yohani Ama Ashite, so that he will recover or regain the NPP's confidence in this constituency, if I should say. So we're here, Mama, we were still monitoring events. We're hoping that all goes well in the Tema East constituency. We'll still be getting more as and when it comes along. As we speak, the Electoral Commission officers are not yet here. We know that the materials are here. They are getting ready. Their materials are here for them to set up. But the officials we haven't seen setting up yet, and that's been the situation in other places as well. And we're wondering why. 4 years ago, at this time, we knew that they were already set up and getting ready to conduct the election. But at this time, we haven't seen that yet. We've seen their materials around and whatnot. So I just saw some of them just come in, and then they have now started setting up so that they can conduct the election. And so we'll be coming your way again with more as and when we get them, Mamabi.
Thank you very much, Mami. Nyamiche Thompson reported there from Tema East. And it's interesting that somebody actually formed a queue as early as 5 p.m. last night. I'm wondering how he slept. But let's cross over now and go to Pusiga, where we have our man on the ground, Atongo Idrisu Kasim, live there for us, also joining us via Zoom. Atongo, good morning to you. What can you report? Exactly where are you in Pusiga? Atongo, please unmute for us and tell us where you are in the Pusiga constituency. Atongo, if you can hear me, kindly unmute and give us the updates. All right, we will return to Pusiga in a short while.
All right.
Okay.
So I can hear you now.
All right, go ahead.
Currently, I'm at the Pusiga Electoral Commission office, where election materials are being deployed to the various polling stations this morning. I was here last night with them as they were making arrangements. This morning, early at 3 a.m., officials, Electoral Commission officials who have been assigned to do the work were here this morning to take their materials. And that's because they are using vehicles to convey those who are going far. We have places where we work county and officials through back to convey their support. And Pusiga, we all know that Pusiga is an NDC-dominated constituency. For the number of years, NDC has been winning this state. And this year, we have a candidate who spoke to me earlier on this yesterday that he is standing for victory to turn the story around. Now, according to him, he said Pusiga is going to dominate in the media space after this election. And we don't know how that will mean, but I suggest that he's talking about victory. And as I'm speaking to you, plans are being put in place because they are yet deploying the electoral material. We have not been able to visit any center, so we are here to make sure they leave here before we move to. And this morning or today, being the election day, we are expecting 58,005 voted from this constituency. And we have 170 polling stations in this constituency Pusiga here as I speak to you now.
All right, Atongo, monitoring as election materials are being dispatched to the various polling centers in the Pusiga constituency. Let's go to another hot constituency, one that we're keeping an eye on definitely. Ningo Prampram, and Kwete Nate is a man on the ground. Good morning to you, Kwete. Where in Ningo Prampram are you and what's happening?
Mamavi, I'm currently stationed at the Methodist Primary 2 polling station, and I must say that voters have started forming queues at the various polling stations visited this morning. At least I've been to 5 polling stations, and I must say there have been a handful of voters who were either seated on benches or standing at designated spots. Some tell me that they came here as early as 2 a.m. and their reason was simple. They want to vote early and then go home. Let me speak to one of them and then find out why he was here this early. Inkpape minihene obahie mlaja.
Inkpaye mla ma vote bene pene ma we mla.
The many time no bahio.
Imbasuye mla imbiji we 3 o'clock imbasuye 3:30.
So this woman tells me that she came very early, and the reason why she came here very early is that she wants to vote to enable her go home. So that she will go and rest. And I must say, voting materials have been dispatched to this polling station. I think about 15 minutes ago, the EC officials were here. They brought the voting materials.
Nate reporting.
I have one of the voters also here. Good morning, sir.
Morning, officer. Morning, officer.
And what time did you come here, sir?
Let me say 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock. Why did you come this early?
I want to vote fast so that they see that I'm the first person who voted something. I want to vote earlier so that people see that I'm serious for this election.
Okay, Mama, so this is what I can report at the Methodist Primary 2 polling station.
And that's Kwete Nate reporting from the Ningo Prampram constituency. We see people standing and queuing, getting ready for this exercise this morning. And from where Kwete was reporting, materials are already on the ground. So election officials are getting ready to do the setup and start the exercise at exactly 7 a.m. We'll be going back to Ningo Prampram, but let's cross over and go to our Joy 997 studio where Kojo Yangsing is standing by. Kojo, good morning to you.
No doubt that across the world, eyes are all on Joy and ears are all tuned in as we wake up the nation getting ready to vote. And of course, the quick whip around that you've already done is showing just how seriously people are taking this exercise. And it's quite exciting to see. So we're looking forward to more developments as they evolve. And no doubt it's going to be an eventful day.
All right, Kojo Yangsing in our 997 studio. He will be bringing us a lot more. Oh, Kojo, there you are. We can see you now. How ready are you, though?
Well, I've been ready. I was born ready. I've been ready since the last election, Mama B. You know, we are so excited to be covering this historic election just because of what it all means. And we'll be having lots of very important people coming through Studio 997 today. So we'd love for you to keep your eyes on us all the way through because one of the important people who will be stopping by this morning is Dr. Mohammed Ibn Chambers. You know the important role he's been playing in diplomacy in the sub-region. And of course, because of his roots with the NDC, he has played an important role already in ensuring that they've come to the peace table. And we'll be learning a little bit more about how he did that. He's just one of many who'll be stopping through Studio 997.
All right, live there in Studio 997, Kojo Yankson. We will be going back to Kojo Yankson in a bit. But let's hit the ground again. Let's go to West Central this time around. Rafiq Salam is standing by. Hello, Rafiq. Good morning to you. What can you tell us? What's happening in West Central? Where exactly are you?
I am currently at the West Central constituency of the Upper West Region. You know, in the Upper West Region here, there are about 519,000 voters in the region in 1,284 polling stations right here. And so I am currently at the Limari polling station. This particular area, for them, voting is part of their life. And so you can see clearly that there are already a lot of stones that have been used as cues on the ground here. And so that's where I'm currently positioned. I've seen some people immediately after the Fajr prayers, they are right here. Some even came as early as 2 a.m. and then to keep these stones and then kicking stools right there. So let me try to speak to one of the early people who was right here in the person of Mr. Can you tell us your name? Why are you here that early?
Yeah, I'm here early enough to get here overnight and vote early and then go back to my job.
This particular area, there are lots of people. This is one of the polling stations in that hospital that you have over 90% turnout. So why is it so?
Well, I think it's their interest. But for me, I see it as an exercise to my franchise, which is a national constitutional right, which I want to exercise.
Okay, so you can see that Mr. Samson is already ready, and then you can see other people. There are a lot of women who are seated here. You know, it's very cold. The Hamatan just started here in this region, and so you can see some of them even dressing like Eskimos right here in the atmosphere. So you can see the stools right here, kitchen stools, and also some are using stones. So this is a Limai for you, and it's part of the 1,200 polling stations in the Upper West region. So the Electoral Commission already, they have been able to put the polling booths right here, and then also the electoral materials also are here. So this is what is happening in West Central constituency. And then in the coming hours, we will be telling you what is really happening right here in the Upper West region. Rafiq Salam reporting for Joy News.
Will not allow you to miss anything that happens in Central. Rafiq Salam right there. We go to Secondi now, and Benjamin Bray is on standby. Good morning to you, Benjamin. Tell us exactly where you are in Secondi.
Good morning to you. Currently, I'm in Secondi constituency around Secondi Youth Center. Around 5:30 a.m. this morning, I went to the collation center at Faith Alive Church opposite Secondi ECG, where I saw the EC officials in the Secondi district deploying the electoral materials to the 90 polling stations and the Secondi constituency, where they are being escorted with police officers. Currently, I'm at, as I said earlier, at the Secondi Youth Center. There is no queue here currently. There is no queue here currently. So we are on standby, waiting for the electoral officers to make the arrangements for the various police centers in Secondi. But in Secondi right now, everything is come here.
Benjamin Bray, our man in Secondi, reporting there for us this morning. Evans, let's talk about Secondi. We've been to a few places. We've been to Tema East, we've been to Ashaiman, we've been to Ningo Prampram, and we just returned from Secondi. What's interesting about Secondi, for instance?
It's not interesting as far as the winning party is concerned, because the MPP wins it almost always. In fact, they wins it always in that particular area of town, and so it's not really interesting. If you look at the what it says on our trends map here, you begin to see what I'm talking about. This is a clean sweep for the MPP, and that's the place of, and the Japamesa. So they win and when they win handsomely because they had all the way up to, what, 67%. And Japamesa actually is not doing bad in terms of the percentage margins that he came in with 67. So this is an area you expect the MPP to win, except that in politics there are no absolutes. We've seen flipping before. And I'll come to one of the areas you've been to already. That flip, that show that it's actually possible. Even when you won an area for so long, you can actually still lose it. You were in the Upper West region, and by the way, it's not one of the interesting areas because you were in Wa Central. And that's Wa Central. Again, not an interesting area to focus on because the NDC wins it always. So it's nothing interesting there. Again, we'll see what happens tonight. It's always possible for something to happen that you can't explain, but history says NDC should win this handsomely. Let's come to Greater Accra. You were in two areas in Greater Accra I want to focus on. You were in Ningo Prampram there. And Ningo Prampram is interesting only because of a certain gentleman that has become very popular. Sam George. And you see him there with his performance. But I want to pull up his performance in terms of how he compares. There used to be a certain gentleman called E.T. Mensah, who obviously we know was an institution when it came to not only NDC politics, but national politics. And this gentleman called Sam George managed to knock him out. It was a very acrimonious context internally. But we know that Sam George himself comes to this party with a very strong background in terms of his ability to pull the votes. Let's talk about the man we know. We're just talking about E.T. Mensah. He was constantly in the 70s. But Sam George has taken the party very close to what they used to have, 69%. He's right there at the edge. But also, if you compare what could potentially happen this year, and the economic factors are always interesting. And I like to always pull that up just to make the point, and I'll go back to one of the areas that this is Ningo Prampram in 2015. The lighter the shade, the less poverty you have there. Now, flip this to what we currently have in 2021, the last time we have the data from Statistical Service. Instantly, you begin to see that the shade is darker. What it means is that poverty has increased there from the last time we were at the polls. That could have a potential impact, and that could increase Sam George's performance in that particular area if you look at parliamentary and the performance there this year. This his 69% could go up. But one more place before we go back onto the lines. And you were in Tema East. Among all the places I've been so far, that is the area with the most interest. Because it is the area I was just pointing to when I said you can win a place for so long. If something catastrophic happens to you there, you can lose. And Mami was right when she mentioned that this is an area that the MPP had won at the parliamentary level. They won it comfortably all over, right? All the way from 1996, even 92, they've cleared this. Of course, 92 was one of those stolen verdict that they wrote, but they constantly had won it. So it's a very safe seat until Titus Glover did something there very catastrophic. No wonder he's not on the ballot this time. But the candidate for the MPP, for the NDC, by the way, Odampton, is a very strong candidate. And when he was winning for the first time, he didn't just win by party. Normally, the first time wins, you barely win and cross the line. He won it by 56%. That tells you, for a first-time win, flipping from the incumbent party, this might be a very, very strong candidate. And the reason why this is interesting in Greater Accra, there are 33 constituencies across the country where we call the flip swing constituencies. They flip from one party to the next. The MPP took only 13 of those constituencies from the NDC, but the NDC took 20 from the MPP, and this is one of those constituencies. In the Greater Accra, there'll be a battle here. But if you go to the presidential is a bit more of a swing. They tend to change quite a bit. The last time they voted John Dramani Mahama, but before that, they had gone to Nana Akufo-Addo. And then before that, they had gone to NDC. So they flip quite a bit at the presidential level. They don't do quite the same when it comes to the parliamentary. This is a typical skirt and blouse area. And is one of the areas that we keep an eye on in an election like this. All right, Tema East, we will be going back on the ground because we're keeping an eye on that particular constituency where Mami Si Nyamisha Thompson
is reporting from. She's on the ground. We're going to go round again. It's about just a few minutes to 6, about 6 more minutes to 6 a.m. And as we've been hearing, in some of the constituencies, people have been queuing since 5 p.m. last night. At about 1, 2, people have also been queuing. And it's interesting in Wa, for instance, Wa Central with stones. Yes. We've seen tables and chairs being used to queue for the human beings. I wonder how they're going to figure out who the stone is.
Yeah, but
when they finally,
I think
the human beings finally come.
In the community, people know. And polling stations, maximum 700 people. Closely knit communities, they know. If you've been to Wa before, that is a closely knit community, and you will not cross the line because you know the stone represents something. But the thing that interests me really, considering that it is a stronghold of the NDC and people are out very early, what does it say? People are out very early. We've said overnight when we're doing analysis is when you have people showing up early, there's enthusiasm. In a place where it's a stronghold of a political party, a particular party, when people show up in your numbers, it always means well for the party that holds the place and is a stronghold of the party.
Right.
So if this is anything to go by, and this is just a sign of the enthusiasm of the people there to go out and vote, if you're an NDC person, considering that Wa Central is a place that you believe to be a strong, and it is a strong because of the historical electoral outcomes, then you say you're happy because you want the people out to go and vote. It's the same thing that the MPP will be doing in Ashanti region where they have a lot of their strongholds. You want people out early. And I'm waiting to go to Ashanti to see what's happening there, and then vote to Region 2. Are people as enthused, as pumped up this morning, waking up? There's a place we went where somebody had been there at 5 p.m. or so, and had come there to start queuing ahead of today. The EC is hoping to cross 85% turnout.
Right.
That's ambitious. That's ambitious, especially when a party is approaching its 8th year. But it's good to see people out there exercising their civic responsibility and ready to do it very early. They will do anything just to get ahead of the time and vote. And they're saying, I want to go and work, but I want to vote early before I go.
Yeah, I want to exercise my my rights because I have some constitutional, no, I have the right to vote and I'm exercising it today. Evans, I'll come back to you. Just a quick stop at Pong Katamaso where Rejoice Semefa Pesu is standing by. Rejoice, good morning to you. Where exactly are you and what can you report for us this morning?
Right, Mama, good morning. So right now I'm in Zeno, one of the electoral areas in the Konkatamansu constituency. And I've been speaking to some voters. They have been telling me that they came here as early as 9 p.m. yesterday to queue because they would be returning to work later today. Now, what they do here is that there's a long queue here, so they are giving them numbers so that when they open the gate officially for voting to start, there wouldn't be any confusion. So that is one internal arrangement that they have made. Now, this is a stronghold of the NDC, the Konkatamansu. So we have their members here. They are party officials who are on the grounds making sure that everything is okay. The electoral officers or the EC officers have started arrangements for voting to start at 7.
Semefa there reporting for us in Konkatamaso. And, you know, Evans, one of the things I want us to talk about, people were expressing different sentiments maybe a few months ago. But we see people actually showing up to vote. People are there. This is very early. It's not even 6 a.m. yet.
Yeah, and the political mind is working here. So what does that mean? Does it mean that there's something that has moved them there to go and vote, and this is an opportunity to express it? They don't have the microphones, but they have their thumb, as we say. This is the best expression of what you're feeling that you haven't expressed. You may have expressed in your small group at home, but now you want to go out there and show whoever it is that you are not happy with, that you really control his employment and you can fire or hire him. If you go to Konkatamanso.
Or you could be happy and so you want to...
Yeah, hire him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the point, right? So that's why people maybe are showing up to vote. But that is why this year we said, in our smart world, let's try and dig a bit down to the kind of things that people maybe will be inspiring people to do the kind of thing you're doing, which is waking up early and queuing and with stones, etc. Obviously poverty, obviously unemployment, obviously education, obviously your ability to put food on your table. Bonkatamanso is an NDC stronghold. It's always been. Whether they were poor or not, they will vote NDC anyway. But the reality is, in 2015, when they went to the polls, they were not as poor as now, right? And this is the 2015 picture from the statistical service, and this is Bonkatamanso, by the way. So you see the severity was at 0.54%, right? Which you see in your corner there, and I want to highlight that with the yellow so that it stands out. And the incidence is just 5.92% at the time. When they voted the year after that, in 2016, but this was not in 2015, 2016 when they voted right after that, NDC won, and rightly so. Why? Because you show it, it's pretty down there, 0.54% severity. NDC won that area, and that's what Semefa was rightly pointing out to you, that it is an area that the NDC always wins, and this is 2016. NDC wins it, and the statistics show they've always won it. But in 2016, they have 51%. Somebody else had done better in 2008 with 63%, which is really one of the best, second best, if you compare to what it had in 1996, right? 70.5% in 1996, and then you have 57%, right, in 2012. So that's Bonkataman. So if you come right now to the thematic, and remember what I showed you earlier, show you again, this is it. Lighter the shade, the less poverty. The darker the shade, the more poverty. It's darker. And you see the values there change. From 0.53%, we have 43%.
That's a significant jump.
That's a significant jump. So what it means is more people in this area, and again, incidence is so 10. More people in the area are poor. And out of the poor, they are extremely poor. And that's what the severity is about. So you expect that something may be inspiring them to go and vote. It may be this. It may not be. But the evidence says if you're in a constituency and you're part of those 43.10%, that is something that can inspire you to go early, to go and show your, I guess, your will in terms of indicating what is happening there in that area.
We need to spend time and talk about the poverty levels after the elections, because all the areas that you visited, Evans, what you've highlighted so far, poverty has just been increasing.
Just look at the Greater Accra picture when you come. And then I'll leave you to tell me the story when I show you 2015 and 2021. And then I'll tell you what happened in the Greater Accra in 2020. It all adds up.
I'm not looking forward to that because I have a feeling that the statistics are really bad. But let's go to Korle. That's a constituency to look out for. Very interesting constituency. Collins Frimpong is our man on the ground. Collins, good morning to you. What can you report this morning?
Good morning, Mama V. So here in Korle Klottey, the ballot papers or the electoral materials were distributed exactly 4 a.m. and almost all the polling stations, they've received their ballot, their electoral materials. Currently at Accra Technical University, where we have 6 polling stations, we've already set up, as you can see, here at Accra Technical University, the 6 polling stations, they all have their electoral materials, and many people have been here since 4:30 a.m. that I got here. People have already been here waiting to join the queue. The only issue that people were having was that they were not able to identify some of their polling stations because where they registered during the registration, the exact place that they did the registration, some of the places have changed because of some construction activities happening in the university. But that one has been resolved as the presiding officer came in and explained things to them. But in Korle Klottey, we are expecting 105,852 people to vote today across 229 polling stations and also 11 electoral areas. And the parliamentary candidates in this particular constituency for the NDC, we have Senator Rawlings, who won this particular seat in 2016 with little about 31,000 votes and ahead of Philip Addison. We remember Philip Addison, who was one of the lawyers for the MPP during the 2012 election petition. Senator Rawlings won that one with a little over 3,000 difference. In 2020, Senator Rawlings won again. That time, NPP came in with a different parliamentary candidate, and Senator Rawlings increased her votes margin by around 6,000. This time around, compared to 2020, where the voter population was around 99.3 thousand or 99.3K, or somebody can say around 99,000. This time around, we are having about 105,000 total voters in Korle Klottey here. So it seems the voters has increased by 6,000. So whether Senator is going to increase her margin this time around or she is going to lose, we will wait until voting ends here in Korle Klottey at 5 p.m. This time around, MPP is presenting a new candidate. If you check right from 2000 where the NPP won, as a matter of fact, the NPP has won only twice since 1996 in this particular constituency. The NPP have won only twice. That's 2000 and 2004. And they lost in 2008. Right from 2008, MPP has never been able to win this particular seat, Korle Klottey seat. And anytime election year, they present a new candidate. This time around, it's no different. In 2024, MPP is presenting a candidate who is a former constituency chairman for the NPP in Korle Klottey. And if you remember, in 2016, Ninoy Valentino, who is a parliamentary candidate for the NPP, contested as an independent candidate, but he lost to Senator Rawlings. So it is an interesting dynamics in this particular constituency, Korle Klottey constituency. Somebody coming up, Valentino coming up against Senator Rawlings, who he lost to Senator in 2016. But at that time, he came in as an independent candidate. But this time around, he's coming as an MPP candidate. On the presidential aspect, MPP has won only 3 occasions. That's in 2000 and also 2004. Former President Kufuor won it in 2000 and 2004, and the MPP lost it to Atamil's late President Atamils in 2008. 2012, former President John Dramani Mahama won it. But in 2016, current President Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo won the presidential in Korle Klottey, but he lost in 2020. John Dramani Mahama flipped it again for the NDC. So since 1996, the NPP has been able to win Korle Klottey only on 3 occasions since 1996. But whether Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is going to win this constituency or John Dramani Mahama is going to win it as he did in 2020, that's another thing to tell. But things are going on well, security-wise. Everything has been peaceful around here. No issues has been recorded so far. Queues are mounting.
This is the Collins. Thank you very much, our man in this constituency that we're certainly keeping an eye on. What happens when Senator Evans goes against a man who's been on the ballot before once as an independent candidate but lost, but is now on as an MPP candidate?
Yeah, and that's an interesting place. Senator is a very powerful candidate there. I grew up in Abraka, which is called Korle Klottey, and there's a school very close by where I lived called St. Joseph. There's a story of Rawlings used to eat gari, yoko gari close by. I remember still going to that place. That woman still sells there. The point I'm making with this is your father was celebrated in that part of town. He lived there. He played there. He schooled there. And no wonder when the daughter shows up, he is the best performing parliamentary candidate for the NDC in that area. The last time she showed up in 2020, he had 55.7%. Nobody else in that area had come close in terms of that number. The last time anybody came close there was in 2000. In fact, she herself took it back to 50. So that tells you that she's very strong going into this election. So it is not really interesting at the parliamentary level. MPP had won it twice, and he is right. But when they won it, they are very, very close. In fact, they won it before in 2004, but less than 50% of the votes. For me, it is the presidential elections in Korle Klottey I'm interested in. Because if you look at it, right, it swings when it comes to the presidential elections. It can swing both NDC or MPP. It's done that at least in the last 3 elections, it's flipped quite a lot. And if you go back to 2004, again, MPP won it, 2000, MPP won it. So there's a possibility here that anybody could win it.
Right.
MPP could win it, NDC could win it, John Mahama can win it, but also Bawumia can win it. That is where I guess I am looking at. Here, because of the Rawlings factor, you expect that the daughter, Senator Rawlings will again sweep it. Within the context of everything that is happening, it is whether or not you have Bawumia winning it back. And a place that Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo has shown that it's possible. But look also at the winning margins. It is very tiny whoever wins to the presidential. The margin of victory is always 1%, plus or minus 1%. Even the last time that Akufo-Addo won it by 51.1%. And the last time that John Mahama won it, 52.5%. So it is going to be close here. It's anybody's game. And that is the story of Greater Accra. If you look at the Greater Accra, the big picture for Greater Accra, and I want to show you that, you will see that it was actually very close at the presidential level. This is Greater Accra. Look at the difference here. John Mahama won it by 1.3%. Akufo-Addo was close to him by 1.2%. The difference is down to a few thousands. And that is the Greater Accra story. So again, NDC won it parliamentary, NDC won it presidential. Before 2020, if you win Greater Accra, you win the national elections. It's not longer the case. And I will tell you why, possibly. That changed in 2020.
All right, Evans, very interesting how the analysis, would it swing? Would it be sket and blouse? I guess we just have to wait for voting to end and counting to begin. But let's go to Kwesimintim in the Western region. Nanama Bwedua is standing by. Nanama, where in Kwesimintim are you and what can you report? Nanama, kindly unmute so we can hear you. Nanama, if you can hear me.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Is it better now?
It is, Nanama. Give us the report.
Right. Great. So I'm currently at the Apremdo polling station, and what I can report this morning is that the electoral commissions are set and ready. The electorate.
Hello, Nanama. Well, we seem to have lost Nanama there, reporting from Apremdo, but we'll certainly return there in Kwesimintim. Let's quickly go to Eric Asante, who is also joining out from the Asaibu-Kwamankese constituency. Eric, good morning to you. What can you report? Eric, please unmute and tell us exactly where you are. What can you report?
Hi, Mama V. I'm currently at the Abraka Methodist GHS, one of the 163 polling stations here in the Asaibu-Kwamankese constituency here in the central region. I mean, people and the connoisseurs have described it as one of the battlegrounds here in the central region. It's a fight between, or it's a battle between Felix Ofosu-Kwakye of the NDC and, of course, this major contender, that is Etudu Nyante of the NPP. When you move through town from last night, you see people in cluster, obviously discussing how events will unfold here. All of them, depending on their persuasion, going into this particular vote with a view of their candidates winning. So all the state EC officials are currently making sure that the place is ready for the election to begin at 7 a.m. So, Mama B, all in all, the Asaibu-Kwamankese, one of the battlegrounds here in the central region, is getting ready for that big election to roll out in at exactly 7 a.m.
All right. Thank you very much, Eric Asante, right there for us. In less than an hour, voters will start voting. We're going to hit the ground again. But right now, let's go to our 997 studio, where Kojiang Singh is standing by. He's got some conversations that he will be having. Kojo, if you can hear me.
I've got to tell you, I've been looking forward to this particular conversation all morning. We're joined by Professor Bafo Agyeman-Duah. I don't think any further explanation is needed beyond that. A governance expert whose voice has been heard on national issues, throughout the years. And this morning he's here with us to help us with analysis as the day starts to dawn on this big and important historic event, the 2024 election. Prof. Bafo Agyeman-Duah, what a pleasure to be with you. Good morning.
Good morning. It's always a pleasure for me also to
Thank
be
you
with
for
you.
making it.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right. Now, I suppose a good place to start would be with the Electoral Commission. It's now their show. They are in charge, and however things go is largely up to them. As the build-up has been progressing, what have been your impressions of the EC? Do they seem ready for this historic event?
Kojo, they have announced just yesterday that they are ready, that all the materials needed for this process have been distributed. And I'm hoping that the various distribution points followed up and sent them to the stations as people are lining up already to cast their ballots. Of course, there have been a lot of challenges for the EC over the past few months, but I think at the same time they've been a little bit more open and transparent and inclusive and also responsive to the concerns expressed by citizens and the political parties. Let us hope and pray that there will be no serious backlashes in terms of the preparations that they've made, and that all the materials will arrive on time for people to begin to vote on time. If we can achieve that, that will be a great start for today's momentous event. Yeah.
I think experience tells us that there might be one or two, places where things might, not go exactly according to the clock. But we want to see largely, things going on time. Yes. Do you feel that the EC has done a good job of garnering faith in its abilities from the political parties?
Well, frankly, listening to the parties, especially the opposition party, that is not so, because the voices that we hear from the opposition party always has been some kind of serious concerns expressed about the work of the EC. But I think overall, the EC has been responsive, especially over the past few months. See, previously there were a lot of issues, but the EC was a little bit reluctant to come out openly, admit and rectify whatever errors that they may have made. But I think lately they've been more responsive. And I'm hoping that that has helped to build some kind of confidence in the citizens in terms of what they are going to do. And again, I'm hoping that it's also the responsibility of citizens to ensure the success of this by playing their role. The EC alone cannot make it work. They may have put everything on the right track, but at the station, the behavior and attitudes of people, both the officials at the polling station and citizens who go out there to cast their votes, the security personnel who are there to provide security, the work of all these entities together is what makes a successful election. So whilst the EC may have done its part, I think citizens also have a responsibility to reciprocate by doing what is expected of them. If you cast your ballot and you go away peacefully and just return at 5 o'clock to witness the counting, if everybody did that, I think it will be fine. Secondly, I know that the army has announced that there will be no soldiers at the polling stations. Let's pray it works like that. But at the same time, we must also watch out for people who may dress like official military people who may come there and cause some problems. For me, that is my concern, because I know the law has banished so-called vigilantes at these places, but at times people can camouflage and come around posing as national security officers when in fact they are not. So if you can check all these things, I'm comfortably assured that we can have a very successful elections.
Yeah, if you're listening to us on Joy, we're having a conversation with Professor Bafo Agyeman-Duah, and we're looking largely at the big picture of the 2024 elections, getting his impressions of how prepared, or otherwise, he thinks we are. Prof, let's look at the process itself. I mean, you know that in the run-up to an election, there will always be some suspicion, it might be rigged. What is your assessment of the robustness of the Ghanaian electoral process? Can it be rigged?
Frankly, if we all play by the rule, it's very difficult to rig. In fact, Dr. Farijan in his time said that, and since then everybody has said it, and I would say so. If you look at the structure of the process from A to Z, and we do it right as specified, there's no room, because after all, from the printing, party agents supervise the printing, distribution of materials, they're part of it. It goes to the polling stations, they are there. You cast your ballot, they are there. And you make sure you do not, I don't even know how anybody can go in with 2 ballot papers and do it. So if we follow the script, I don't think there should be a problem. But I guess there's still room, even in that kind of tight system. There must be some room for any unscrupulous person to do something. That's why we all have to be watching out. So whilst I think the script is perfect, the human agency that is driving that process could be the problem. So whilst I can say for sure that the system is among the best in Africa, perhaps in the whole world, the problem has been the human agency operating this kind of system. As for ballot staffing and all, again, if agents are vigilant and the security personnel, if they are vigilant, I don't see how one can replace one box with another that is already staffed. But then again, it all depends on the vigilance of people at a particular polling station. Stories of box snatching have been going on for years in our system. And not only here, I've been to many other African countries. I remember in Nigeria, a funny story of how somebody came openly, we were there, and just took the box away and ran in with it. Maybe the guy wasn't right upstairs. Those things happen. And I also saw in Mina, the home town of Babagenda, in a school where I was supervising elections, where one room was locked, and then somebody came and called the international observers and said, please come here, there's something going on here. We went in there, and they were busily stamping ballot papers. Oh, yeah. Because you don't open your mouth. True stories.
Goodness.
Yes. I've seen all these across. I was in Liberia for the election that brought Charles Taylor to power, and I went to one school where they were teaching them, literally, you come to the box and they teach you where to put your thumbprint. So all these things go on. But I think Ghana, I think we have gone beyond that. From what I know of our system and our people, we've gone beyond that. So perhaps there's a still more sophisticated way of cheating that we'll have to be looking out for. So whilst I'm fairly confident of our system, I still have some room to wonder if, in fact, all of us will behave according to the rule for this system to work for us.
Perhaps more than before, and I think with good reason, the role of the military has come up for a lot of discussion in the run-up to this election. I think some lessons are being picked from the last one. What are your thoughts on the state's preparation and arrangement and the role that they have envisaged for the military?
You're right. Always the military has been a problem, not necessarily by the high command, but on the ground, some soldiers just assume they have powers to do certain things, or perhaps they've been sent privately or secretly to come and play certain roles at polling stations. So that has been a problem. The incidents of violence and deaths that we witnessed in the last elections 4 years ago, I suppose were by people who were dressed like military men. Whether they were truly military men or not, I mean, up to today, we don't know. And that's why earlier I talked about vigilantes who may camouflage as official security personnel. So it's good that the CDS is now saying, look, no soldiers should be at the polling stations. And let us hope this is true. And I think the media should be monitoring this very carefully. If they find anyone like that, they should quickly inform the nation and their superiors. So if in fact they are around and they are just sitting somewhere, just they come forward only when invited by the police at the instructions tell us, then I think the military will be fine. But please, the soldiers must behave. Those even who are put at some places to be called upon in case of need, they must also recognize that this is a very important activity for the nation, and going wrong will be disastrous for all of us. So their role is as important as a citizen who is going to cast the ballot to determine who becomes our president. So overall, I think, and I'm hoping that the rules laid by the Army Command will be followed by the personnel, and that all of us as citizens should also cooperate to make sure that it works for us.
Well, if you just joined us, we're having a very interesting conversation with Professor Bafo Agyeman-Duah. This is your election headquarters. Nobody does it better. And I know you'll have your eyes glued on us throughout this entire process. And here's one reason why. We'll bring you all the updates. For example, right now in Sekondi Takoradi constituency, our very own Natalia Kwanzaa has been standing by and keeping an eye on how things are evolving this morning. Natalia, if you can hear us, tell us how Sekondi Takoradi has woken up on election day.
Kojo, yes, so you can see within the streets of Sekondi Takoradi, people are gearing up to come to the various polling stations. Where I'm standing right now is the Brigadier Hall, and it also happens to be the coalition center for the Sekondi Takoradi constituency. They have 161 polling stations in this constituency. Expected eligible voted 79,344 eligible voters are expected to vote across this 161 centers. Where I am, the EC is ready. The ballot box has already been mounted. And then a few people are here waiting to cast their vote at exactly 7 a.m.
It seems there's a lot of enthusiasm from the people of Sekondi Takoradi. Have you had a chance to talk to any of them about why they are turning out so early?
Well, for most of them, they feel that this is their right. It is their time to make a good decision here. And so they are here to cast their votes. They are here to make a decision which we've all been waiting for since December. We've all been waiting for this day. So that is the same reason why they are here. But I want to put this across. Sekondi Takoradi happens to be a stronghold of the New Patriotic Party. You know, Honorable Jogate has been the minister here since the member of parliament here since 2004. Today, 2 parliamentary candidates are vying for this position here. The NPP's Charles Bitsu Onuawanto, and then the NDC's Dr. Grace Ayen Sudanfa. So these are the 2 parliamentary candidates vying for the seat here at Sekondi Takoradi.
Thank you for that, Natalia, and no doubt this is one of the constituencies we'll be keeping our eye on because there's a change of the guard, and it's very interesting to see whether it will remain an NPP stronghold and Charles Bitsu will walk away with it, or whether the NDC will inch it. Let's go to another constituency that we're keeping our eyes on, and it's the almighty Ayawaso West Wuogon. Central and critical for several reasons. Let's find out. Forgive me, we'll go to Ayawaso Central first and find out how things are unfolding there this morning.
Yes, Kojo, thank you so much. I have been here since 4 a.m. and a lot of people are here. Most of them have been kept outside. I am at ATPC currently, Accra Technical Training College, and you can see this particular premises hosts 7 polling centers. So this is just one of them, as you can see. This is another one. And then I'll attempt to look at extreme end. You will see another one also there. And far behind near their chapel, there's another one. So there are 7 polling centers in this particular place. Kojo, Ayawaso Central is a stronghold of the NPP. Honorable Shekai Sikwe was the one who was holding the fort here until we had Henry Korle taking the seat. And since 1996, this particular seat has been favorable to the MPP. But this year, the NDC candidate Abdurrahman Tubazu, who told me earlier that he's ready to unseat Henry Korle. Now, we have about 193 polling stations here in Ayawaso Central with about 88,000 eligible voters. And most of them, as you can see, have started queuing already. We have the Pentecost also church around, and that also hosts about 6 polling centers. So this place is quite busy, even though they have been told to all stand outside. A lot of them keep coming in. You can see the electoral officers ensuring that, sorry for this taxi, ensuring that all the materials that they have received are all being well packaged, sorted out. Some people are just here observing the scene, and this is a place to watch because in our constituency watch with Carlo Kaloni, if you remember, he was at Malata, he was at Nima, and most of the candidates, most of the electorates told him that they want to, let me say it exactly as they said it, they want to change because of how the economic hardship has really affected them. So everyone is wild here. And if you remember in 2020, the situation that happened here, the NDC said there was their claim, they were leading, they don't know what happened. And then the seat just overturned. So they are very wild, everybody is wild here. The electoral officers are ensuring that everything is well done. The party agents are all here, taking all the details that they have to do. How are you? Good morning. You're live on Joy News. What's your name? My name is Cynthia Jewa. Cynthia Jewa. Which station are you representing? Ayawaso. But are you a polling agent? Yes. For which particular party? MPP. Okay. So what have you been doing exactly?
Yeah, recording the
You are recording the serial numbers. Okay. Yes. And as you can see, Cynthia is recording the serial numbers. She has it all here so that by the end of the day, she will be able to collate and ensure that everything that she came to see is the exact number that she's taking at the end of the day to her party. And what's your name, sir? You're live on Joy News. What's your name? Bright. What station are you also? Which particular party? MPP. Okay. So how are you also ensuring that everything that you are writing and noting down comes all to fruition at the end of the day? Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Any mistake? Okay. And are you satisfied with the process so far? So far, you're satisfied. Okay, so we see the security officers here. Setting up is still ongoing.
Right. Of course, that was Ayawaso Central, hive of activity as all of the observers and those preparing to vote are gearing up for a big day. Now, listen, while all of this is happening in the constituencies and at the polling stations, well, an interesting aspect of an election day is also evolving. I want to take you now to the Circle Bus Terminal, where lots of Ghanaians resident here in Accra are getting ready to travel to their voting centers and make it in time to cast their vote before the end of today. It's hustle and bustle, and our very own Michael Papani is at the center of it. Michael, tell us how Circle is coming alive this morning.
Circle, and clearly it's a busy terminal as always, except that today you may see a lot of buses, but they're in short supply as well. You wouldn't believe that. And in Koko bus, short, very small bus just left here. A very long bus has also just left for Kumasi. But there are many people who are not able to find the buses to the exact places that they are looking for. I mean, this bus has been sitting here for about 5 minutes now. Just about 3 people already sitting inside of it, waiting for the opportunity, possibly to go back to their hometowns to vote. Hello, good morning. Okwahe. So she's just telling me that she's going to Agyeman, where she's going to vote as expected. Though there's some people in the vehicle that are also waiting, but there's some people here who are looking for some buses and are not finding it. Let me try and get closer to some distant. Bossman, good morning. That is saying. Now, who are the one who car go baby?
Me share car go.
Okwahe. In Koko. Is that Koko can see the 2 year?
Me ba na yema. Ti me train car for.
Okay. Na mbisa so Koko kwa kwa ede. Ukotuaba. Na dintina dadada ba kwa na ndra holiday antina wanko.
Ejuma 70.
Na bibia de muze uni bia ukotuaba uni bibia uko bibia.
Sure.
You already made up your mind?
Sure.
All right. So what's your name?
I'm George. George.
George. Okay, so that's George telling me that he's looking for a vehicle in Koko, and he's not getting one. He has to wait for some time. One of the drivers will possibly have to reconsider that decision and decide to go towards his direction before he possibly may get one. But there are longer vehicles like this. These buses are here as well that are also loading lots of people. They're expecting many people to come, although people are not coming in their numbers as well. Those who are here waiting will not get the opportunity to sit in some of the buses that are also around here. So this bus, I am told, is now loading to go to Kumasi. Right, this bus is going to Kumasi, right? Exactly. So this bus is going to Kumasi. And already, some individuals are sitting in the vehicle. Let's try and find out, engage their response quickly. Then we leave here. So it's quite an empty bus, but I see three people at least already inside. Boss, good morning. That's saying. Now going. Now going on. Uko voti. I didn't know about Uko voti.
Like, said about also be a coach and
So he's also just telling me that he's managed to come through the bus now so that he can participate as a citizen of Ghana, exercise his franchise and make sure that he's part of the process to electing the next president of Ghana. Yeah, so that is definitely the mood here. Some people are struggling to get a vehicle. Others will have to wait a little because majority of the people left yesterday for their various hometowns to participate in the December 7 poll. So, Kojo, really, it will be a very long day, especially for those who have to wait for these buses to get full. They're hoping to get to their villages or their hometowns in time so that truly they can exercise the franchise. We'll be moving to some other places and we'll definitely get the mood and bring you up to speed on that as well.
Annie, thank you very much for that. And this is why we are your election headquarters, because we'll bring you every aspect of how this election is affecting Ghanaian life. We wish all of these travelers Godspeed as they seek to reconnect with their places of registration so they can cast their vote. Now, of course, back here in the studio, we've been having a conversation with Professor Bafo Agyeman-Duah. He's a governance expert with years of experience, and he's been giving us his impressions of how the process is gearing up for this all-important election 2024. Now, Prof, before we did the quick whip round, you were talking about you know, the role of the military and how the system itself and process has been set up. But this is an election. It's a popularity contest. In the end, somebody must win.
That's correct.
Do you think we have the usual two-horse race, or could this be the year of the third force's emergence?
Certainly, this is not the year for the third force emergence. It could be in the coming years. I think it's going to be the two-horse race, no doubt. The two dominant parties, people are now referring to this as a duopoly that we have. They're still dominant, and I think it's going to go to one of them. Which one gets it, I don't know. Or even if I have my own idea, I have to keep it for now. But certainly...
Do you think it will be close, though? Or will there be quite a clear margin?
Two things. From what I hear, there could be a runoff or just first round technical knockout by one of them. It depends on the mood of the electorate. What you hear, again, depends on who you talk to, especially in the urban center like Accra. A lot of people seem to talk about change, the necessity for change. But Accra is not just Ghana, mind you. Of course, it's a huge area in terms of population, but there are other heavy population-centered areas in the country. So it's difficult to tell outright how it's going to be. So maybe the better candidate will win.
Yeah. I mean, Joy News's analysis indicates that it's as always, a numbers game, and the two regions with the big numbers, the Greater Accra and the Asante region, are going to be key in this race.
Sure.
But the 5 regions of the north of Ghana are also turning into quite a big battleground. To your mind, what might be some of the factors that would determine how things unfold there?
The northern regions, you know, our leading candidates both happen to come from the region. And without playing the religious game, mind you, it's also predominantly Muslim, even though there's a heavy concentration of Christians. You know, I'm very familiar with the topography of the northern sector. Like the western part, well, let me say that.
We don't mind a quick demographic lesson.
Exactly. The western part, predominantly Christian and all. From Boli all the way to the west side, you know. So with the two candidates, both coming from that sector, it's going to be an interesting election, unlike any of those that we have witnessed. I think it's hard to predict how that region will be split between the two leading candidates. I think each of them may have some strong hold in certain areas of the region. But totality of their voters, certainly in terms of numbers, may not compare to the two big regions that you mentioned earlier, the Greater Accra and the Ashanti region. So overall, I think it's going to be one of the keenest contested elections, despite what appears to be the yearning for change and all that. I think in most people's minds, those two factors will be very influential in making them decide where to cast their ballot. So we have to wait and see.
Yeah. Now, Central Region is also an interesting region to keep an eye on. They've tended to be a bellwether region, especially when it comes to the presidential election. They haven't got it wrong yet.
That's right.
Again, this year, interesting factors, interesting candidates in the two front-running parties. What do you think the central regional voter will have at the front of his mind as he or she goes into the ballot booth?
Certainly, the central region is going to be very interesting for one main reason. The vice presidential candidate of the NDC is from that region. If you care to know, by the way, Jane was my classmate at the university, and we've been good friends, yeah. So it's going to be interesting in terms of how they decide their votes. But as you said, it's one of those states that may be called a swing region, because you cannot determine exactly which way they are going to go in any particular election. So maybe the Jane factor could play some interesting role there. We are here to see how effective she has been in getting the people in the region mobilized towards her party. But again, there are certain constituencies in the region that are solidly NPP. I don't know how any of the independent candidates will be cutting into that, because right now the discussion has been just the NDC NPP. But mind you, some of the independent candidates, especially Alan and Nana Bediako, could take some votes away. I don't know whether it's from NDC or NPP, but I think those who are frustrated with the system might decide to look for a neutral person. That's where perhaps Bediako can come up strongly. But with that region for now, I think, again, I would simply say it's going to be an interesting contest in that region, and we don't know who's going to carry the region.
Now, let's actually talk about, if indeed it's still a two-horse race, who might emerge third. And I've heard you mention Nana Kwame Bediako. But there are a few other independents and other parties on there. Is it your analysis that perhaps the one performing the best so far is him? What about Alan?
You know, there have been a number of polls, over the past few months in the country. And in most of them, it seems like they tend to rank Bediako third. At times, Alan pops up, but generally, he's been rated third, and Alan goes to the fourth. The rest together, they bunch together at the bottom. So in this particular election, maybe they may not count much. So I think what we've been watching for is whether between Alan and Bediako, who will be coming to the third, and by what margin. Because the ability to pull the voters to their side can be decisive in terms of whether there will be a runoff or not. If they don't pull much, and maybe first round technical knockout may occur, you know. But I think this particular election, if you follow the trend and listen to what people say, any of these two independent candidates may be critical in determining whether it will be a first round victory or we're going to go for a second round.
Do you think the performance of independents in this election will be a significant factor to consider for Ghana's future elections?
Again, listening to the ground, a lot of people are frustrated, at least seems to me, are frustrated with the current status quo. Status quo dominated by the two parties. And I think a lot of people, for the first time, seem to be loudly calling for an alternative to the two parties. So depending on the performance of these independent candidates, that could be something we can look for in the coming years. But of course, if their performance is abysmal, as in the past, then that, again, that dream can dim, okay? So let's see how exciting their entrance to the race will be for voters. Let's see how voters express that frustration that they express in terms of how they vote, maybe jettisoning the two parties and running to any of the independent candidates. All that will determine the future in terms of whether this dream for a third force can truly emerge. At this point, until after the elections, it's hard to again predict.
Prof, I'm loving this conversation. Let's do more. But first, let's take you to the western border of the Greater Accra region, to the Agyeman-Duah constituency. Our very own Faustina Safo is there. Faustina, Agyeman-Duah is waking up on election day. What's the mood?
Hi, Kojo. It's certainly an exciting mood here at Agyeman-Duah. We got here as early as 5 a.m., where we saw individuals lining up to exercise their franchise. Unfortunately, ballot papers from the Municipal Assembly sorting was quite late, as at 6 a.m. they were still doing the sorting. So for most of the polling centers, they'll be receiving their ballot papers a bit late. Now in this constituency, we're expecting some 118,000 people, over that amount, to come out to exercise their franchise. Historically, this constituency, the Agyeman-Duah constituency, is a stronghold for the New Patriotic Party. They have occupied the seat since 2004. Now, the parliamentary candidate for this area, many call him the giant slayer, because he took out the incumbent MP, Tina Mensah, with a whopping 736 votes during the last parliamentary primaries for the NPP. And so we're looking forward to him coming to cast his ballot. We're currently at the Wager ITS polling center. And if I would just show you what exactly is happening, the EC officials are currently setting up. Individuals already here. They came in quite early, ready to exercise their franchise. I've been speaking to the campaign manager for the New Patriotic Party, Jerry, to be precise, and he is quite optimistic. The party is eyeing 80% votes in this constituency, and we're here to monitor it all. It's decision day, Kojo, and we're on the grounds till the results are declared.
Faustino, no doubt we'll be hearing more from you as the day unfolds. But let's go across to another rather populous constituency here in the Greater Accra region. Ashaiman, our very own Isa, has been gathering thoughts of those who are prepping for the big day. Isa, what have you learned?
Well, all is set here for today's election, and currently I'm at the Sapema MA1 polling center. Over here we have about 4 polling centers within the Sapema primary or basic school. And you could realize that people have already queued, waiting to cast their ballot. But I was trying to speak to one woman who said she came here as early as 2 a.m. And usually when you get here at that time, or when she comes here at that time, she meets a lot of people queuing and waiting to cast their ballot. But this time around, when she got here like 2 a.m., she only she was the only person around until a gentleman joined or later joined her around, let's say forgive me, like 4 a.m. So I've been trying to speak to her whether she was quite surprised that as of the time she got here, she couldn't meet anybody and she was alone. So if you don't mind, Kwajo, let's speak to her and find out how she has been here from 2 a.m. alone, thinking that there will be a lot of people in the queue waiting to cast their ballot. Madam Pacha, over her time, bay.
2 o'clock.
Na me Pacha, when Nedi Kanya woto aba ana.
Baby.
So over her bay 2 a.m. no over 2 nipa saying.
Obi anyhow.
Na me Pacha, yeah, tesi. What about 2 a.m.? The entina be sorry 2 a.m. aba.
First no yeba yebeda ha entina me ba 2 o'clock.
Na ba ya 1 be 2 obi na ya 1 na.
Aye.
And she says, "See, bad time, bad and nipa kakra ya, omudi echi be join yen."
Me ba 2 something no, na boy no suba 2:30.
Oh, okay. So Kwajo, you had for yourself. It looks that, indeed, she thought that as usual, people queue here a lot. So coming in at 2 a.m. and meeting only one person, or coming to wait until one person came around 4 a.m., she was quite surprised. So while waiting, you could see that the polling officials are waiting with the party agents trying to take stock or take data of the number of the ballot boxes and details so that they can actually render account after the ballot in the center.
Yeah, thank you for that. And wow, the early bird certainly catches the worm. 2 a.m. Goodness. All right, we can now go a bit further afield to Tamale North. This is a constituency that's being monitored by our very own Martina Bugri. Martina, good morning to you and all the lovely people of Tamale North. How is election day shaping up? Right. I suspect that we're having a bit of a communication problem with Martina. Martina, your earpiece might not be very helpful to you. But listen, take it away if you can hear us. Tell us how Tamale North has woken up on election day. Right. We will take you back to Tamale North for Martina's update once we've sorted out the technical issue there. But look, it's all kicking off everywhere across the country. Martina, can you hear us now? Right. We must ask your forgiveness. We are having a bit of a technical issue connecting to Martina Bugri, but we're working on it. We'll get you up to Tamale North as soon as we can. Prof, I mean, some dedication there. 2 a.m. queuing up to vote. What do you think the voter turnout is going to be like? Do you see a certain invigoration of the electorate?
Yes, because I think there are very strong sentiments from people about this particular election. Either they are looking for a change or they want to retain the present party in power. But to wake up at 2 a.m., that's extraordinary. It shows you the extent to which Ghanaians love their democracy, exercising their right to determine who rules us, which is good for us. And many people, in fact, on my way here listening to the radio, people woke up at 2, 3, they've been in the line until they are still waiting for 7 o'clock to cast their ballot. So that is really great on the part of Ghanaians. But it shows again the importance of this particular election. You see, when one side say, I'm going to break the 8, and the other said, no, we're not going to allow you to break the 8, they are significant. Because so far, these two parties have been enjoying 8 years in power, anytime they come to power. So if for the first time, one is seeking to break that convention, you can understand the anxiety of the opposition on this. And that perhaps invigorated them to do their campaigns and Of course, with everything else taken into account, a lot of people are also anxious to see whether this breaking the 8 will occur. So I'm not surprised that people are waking up this early. The first time I saw that was back in 2000 when the elections of Agyeman-Duah took place. That was again a very exciting moment for Ghanaians. But that's about 24 years ago, right? 24 years ago. Almost.
In fact, 2000, so yes, 24 years ago.
My goodness, time flies. So now people are still looking to be at the polling station by 4 a.m. Again, the commitment of Ghanaians to this democratic experiment, I think, is a very strong one. Just that we have to find a way to fine-tune how we practice democracy to make it more meaningful in terms of making it productive, satisfying the material needs of people. So far, we've been successful having elections despite some incidents here and there, but we have not been very successful in translating electoral successes into development successes. That is a real challenge for us.
Yeah, well, certainly we're hoping that this election will inch us closer to overcoming that challenge. This is your election headquarters. We're live on Joy News, we're live on Joy FM, and we're live around the world. Wherever you are, you can catch us on YouTube or even live on our social media platforms. There is an X-based conversation going on right now that you can be a part of, and it's all about our preparation and gearing up for this election. Professor Bafo Agyeman-Duah is our guest this morning as we analyze all the possible permutations that could emerge at the end of this process. I'm going to ask you to do a bit of crystal ball gazing now. Don't worry, I won't ask you who you think will win the election. But how soon do you think we'll know?
Actually, with the technologies that people have, I will not be surprised that by midnight, some may have a clear idea about the trend, whether it's towards victory or loss. But officially, we wouldn't know until the next day, Sunday, maybe by 10 or 12. But of course, it depends. For the Electoral Commission, they may have to wait and make sure all the dots are on the I's and the T's are crossed. Everything is reported before they do the official announcement. But I think for the political parties and those IT-savvy people, because the system as we have it makes it possible for you to know whether you have won or lost in about 8 hours after the game is played, you know. And that's why I'm thinking that people should be calm, okay? So far as we don't get any egregious problems in terms of ballot stuffing or cheating and that kind of stuff, I think the election can be fair in that respect, and therefore, if you know the results going to go against you, you don't necessarily find a way to instigate negative reactions, you know. So I think overall, with the technology, as I say, by midnight to early morning, parties, the political parties in particular, will know where they stand.
Prof, one of the big plug-ins to any election is the media.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on the media's contributions so far and the role they are required to play in the coming hours?
Overall, the media has been great in this process, even though we have to also say that in some instances, some journalists have not been very fair to the system by deliberately picking on negativities and blowing them up out of proportion. That has not been the best part of our practice. But I can say that there have been some, I don't need to mention names, I guess. There have been some media houses that have been very, very professional, and I think that is good for us. The media, as you know, we like to say is the fourth estate, and it's true. You really represent the people to cross-check government for us. And believe it or not, majority of people in most countries do believe in what they hear from the media. That's why it's so important, if you're a journalist, you're working for any media house, you got to be sensitive to that people are listening to you. Your words can move people into certain direction. You know the story of Rwanda. Radio Mail, the full name of the radio station that was at the center. Mille Collines. It's called Mille Collines. No, Mille Collines.
Yes.
That's the radio station. It was. It played a critical role in the genocide that took place in that country in the early 90s.
Yeah.
So it's very important for journalists to always be mindful of what they say and how they say it, because ultimately you are influencing the minds of millions of people.
Right.
So in this election, I'm hoping that they will be mindful of that.
Thank you so much. Prof, it's getting exciting. Hold on to your seats because the polls are about to open across the country. Mama V and Evans are in the Joy News studio with an eagle eye of everything. Guys, it's about to go down.